It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley are here, and yeah, there's no big news except for Microsoft's biggest acquisition in its history. Why is Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard? What's the business model? Why is it a good idea or is it a bad idea? And will it pass regulatory approval? All that and more coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 760, recorded Wednesday, January 19th, 2022. The Activision Acquisition. This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by HackerRank. It's time to reboot your technical interviews with HackerRank's easy-to-use tools. With a pre-made question library, code playback, and built-in whiteboard, you'll be conducting better technical interviews and instantly identifying the right talent. Go to hackerrank.com/WW to start a better tech interview for free today. And by Intel Systems, orchestrated by the experts at CDW to deliver increased performance with a built-for-business 11th Gen Intel Core vPro processor. Learn more at cdw.com/Intel Client. It's time for Windows Weekly, or should we call it Gaming Weekly? Paul Thurrott is here all about... No, Mary Jo's going, no! FML. Finally, Mary Jo leads with this story. Mary Jo
That's
Foley.
the other.
That's the other meaning?
Expansion of
The other FML.
Yeah, the other one.
FML.
Mary Jo Foley, all about Microsoft.com from ZDNet, Paul Thurrott, Thurrott.com. His own sui generis, eponymous, and other Latinism website. There is just nothing to talk about today, so I think we should have a short show. No.
Yeah, let's just do some recipes and
biggest acquisition Microsoft has ever attempted.
By a long shot.
The funny thing is, what is it? Is it 67.8 billion?
By the way, it's supposed to be 75 even, right? But they
68.7. 68.7.
So New York Times says nearly 70 billion. And I'm thinking, since when is 1.3 billion a rounding error?
Almost. Right. Yeah.
But it is when you're talking
that
six.
big.
What the? So, Mary Jo, FML. Yes. Finally, Mary Jo leads. Yes.
So let me give you the highest level of this story and why even I wrote about it. First, Microsoft's biggest acquisition ever, like you just said.
What was the next biggest? GitHub?
LinkedIn.
26.2
billion.
Which even then we thought that's an awful lot.
We thought that was like insane, right?
Well, for LinkedIn it was insane.
But 70 Instagrams, my God.
Yeah. And so the way this all came out, too, like the day after a holiday, we're all thinking, Tuesday's going to be an easy day. We're just going to coast. Plus, next Tuesday is Microsoft earnings. So they're kind of in a semi-quiet period. No, wrong.
Not so quiet.
Not so quiet. And it felt like the news started trickling out a couple hours before 9 a.m. Eastern because I saw a couple headlines saying Microsoft might buy Activision. And I'm like, oh, I hope they don't. I want a quiet Tuesday. And then suddenly, 9 a.m., we all get email like, yeah, we just made a bid to buy Activision. So Activision, for people like me who had no idea who they were, Activision Blizzard, Call of Duty.
Jeez, come on.
I had never heard of them.
You never heard of Call of Duty?
No, I heard of the games. I never heard of the company. I heard of the games, but not the company. So Call of Duty.
Man, that's like a dagger to the heart.
Right. Candy Crush.
Candy Crush, they own King. I didn't know that. That was a shock. Yeah. Okay,
if you hate Candy Crush in your start menu, forget it. It's going to be there forever
Big
now.
time.
It's just going to be there. Warcraft, Diablo, Overwatch, all these names I don't know. Right. All these are part of this franchise.
Games, Mary Jo. Big.
Yes. Big. Very big. How many employees will Microsoft get if this goes through? 10,000 employees.
Yep.
10,000 more employees.
But they're also going to get one employee they probably don't want.
Actually, they're probably not
they're not
going to
keep.
Oh,
Right.
that would be a relief.
He's going away.
So Kotick has been, and you see, you do know, or Kotick, I should say, you do know this name because surely you saw the news about the harassment,
I did.
the frat boy culture around World of Warcraft. So, and Bobby Kotick is the poster boy for this. In fact, some people were perturbed that he's going to have this big payday when, in fact, everybody's calling for him to resign. Yeah. And that's why I think Microsoft rushed into this.
Well, so the rumor is that Activision Blizzard was going around shopping itself around, and they offered themselves
Kotick wanted out,
Meta, and Meta said no.
Really?
Yep. And so then they came to Microsoft, and Microsoft wasn't their first choice, but they're like, hey, what about you guys? You seem to want to do this gaming thing. You want to buy us?
That's a gross paraphrasing of the conversation, but yes.
Yes, I was privy to this conversation, and that's what they said. What else you need to know?
You're going to be like you're like Time Magazine now in all of your articles.
Exactly.
And then he walked into the room, looked from left to right, and saw a shining
desperation in the eye.
Desperation in his eyes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think, the noose was tightening around Kotick.
Yeah.
Activision has paid huge amounts of money in settlements. I'm not surprised they're being shopped around.
And by the way,
not
to be cynical, Microsoft has had its own similar issues, thanks to Bill Gates and probably others, and actually definitely others. I'm sorry.
I'm sure part of your news this week is they've just
and coincidentally or not, just this past week, Microsoft announced they were going to allow a third party to review its policies with regards to those things and be transparent about that because of a shareholder.
What do you bet? Coincidental or not? Not.
I'm betting not.
Well, you certainly wouldn't want somebody to acquire Activision Blizzard. No. It's really not Activision.
Right, who had the
Blizzard's
same problems.
problem. Yeah. You would want somebody who's taking serious.
Well, I will say this,
steps.
this came up I think as recently as last week. In the wake of that Power On documentary about Xbox, Seamus Blackley came out of the woodwork. I hadn't heard from him in years. And started talking to, publicly and started being public and everything. Mm-hmm. And he mentioned something about the toxicity on Xbox Live. And I kind of railed against that because, dude, this has been a problem since Xbox Live started 20 years ago. And you folks, Microsoft, he hasn't been at Microsoft in years, but, Microsoft has never done anything substantial about that. Mm-hmm. And then last week, Phil Spencer, then the head of Xbox, now the CEO of Microsoft Gaming, said something similar. I don't know if it was on Twitter or in a press interview or something. And I think it was last week on this show where I basically said the same thing. It's like, guys, you can't just talk. You have to actually do something about it. And Phil Spencer as well, in the wake of the Activision stuff, had come out publicly and said, well, this isn't okay. We're looking into this, we're whatever. And, did absolutely nothing about it, except by the company. and now, assuming it goes through, maybe they will be able to do something about it. So in a way, not that makes right what's happening on Xbox Live, but it does at least put effect to the words that Phil Spencer had said previously with regards to Activision Blizzard. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So when I'm looking at this from like a sheer strategy perspective, so what does Microsoft want here other than all the games that they can put on Game Pass, right? They also want mobile, a play in mobile, which Activision Blizzard has, and they do not, right? So all the time, Microsoft is looking for an entree into mobile. Like, how can we get back in the mobile game without a mobile phone platform? This is one way. You have games for mobile, right? Another thing they want out of this is what they always say they want out of every acquisition lately, which is community. They talked about this with GitHub, with LinkedIn, when they were trying to buy Discord. Like, it's all about, we're buying into communities. We want to bring communities along because if you get them in one area, they're thinking you can bring them along into others. I'm not saying if you play, Call of Duty, it means you're automatically going to buy Power BI. I'm not saying that, but it's kind of in the back of their mind, maybe like, okay. Maybe
I will say there's a nexus of toxicity that involves Call of Duty and Xbox Live, and I have lots of experience with. But yes, there's a community aspect to it. For sure.
Microsoft, before this acquisition and before Nuance, which still hasn't closed, Nuance is the healthcare / voice company they decided they were going to buy last year for $19.7 billion. Before that closes, and before this closes, Microsoft had $150 billion in cash.
Right.
So
And by the way,
they were ready to
thank you,
buy something.
pandemic, for
almost
that.
half of it. And it's it's a month's revenue. I mean, it's a significant chunk
it's
of
a lot.
This is free money, and I mean that sarcastically, but a lot of this money occurred over the past 2 years because of the pandemic and the incredible spending that occurred.
And COVID.
That's right. And all of the surge in usage in Teams and all of the work they've put into Teams and the other Microsoft 365
So you could thank Donald
products.
Trump for this, really.
Yikes. And
Is that a bridge too
That's
far?
a real.
that is a sentence that will never leave my lips, Leo,
Yeah.
unless you're talking about the end of
He
democracy.
set up the repatriation.
yeah.
You know, I think it was carefully arranged so that the rich would get richer during the pandemic.
Well, the rich did get richer, that's for sure.
Yeah, they did.
By the way, just
Yeah.
from a high level as well, to think about gaming and how it works within Microsoft, et cetera, et cetera. Activision Blizzard is itself the result of massive mergers and acquisitions over many years, right? This is a conglomerate that has occurred over many decades. And I was just talking to Brad this morning, and I was saying, a lot of people either don't remember or don't know this, but Activision started in the 1980s when a group of independent developers from Atari left that company because Atari refused to give them credit for the games they created. And so all of those early games had their names on them, Pitfall, Barnstorming, et cetera, was someone's name was right on the box. And that was something that they really wanted. It was just a kind of a cute little independent company back in the day. Today, Activision Blizzard, like EA, like Sony, really, and like Microsoft, is a place that has dozens and dozens of game studios they've either acquired or merged with over the years. And thus they have all those game franchises that Mary Jo mentioned. So that's been kind of a big part of the Twitter conversation is the gaming world inevitably hurtling toward this kind of consolidation thing where there's only a couple of major players? And the answer obviously is, yeah, of course it is. That doesn't mean that indie developers can't be successful. Kind of like indie movies can be successful or whatever. There are lots of great indie games these days, of course. Microsoft's been a big champion of that for sure. But yeah, I mean, the big get bigger, the rich get richer. There's no, I don't think there's any stopping it. I mean, there will be regulatory.
Well, that's the next question. Can this even go through? I don't think it can. Microsoft.
I don't think it's going to be stopped.
You don't.
I don't think it's going to be stopped either. Here's why. And there's a single sentence in the Microsoft announcement that I think tells the tale. They said when this, and of course they say when, not if, when this acquisition goes through, we will be the third largest gaming company by revenue after Tencent and after Sony. So there's your answer to why it's okay. They're not creating the biggest. They're not leapfrogging everybody. Microsoft isn't using its massive cash hoard to dominate an industry in which they were almost don't mind the entire neighborhood exploding around me. In an industry where they were almost an also-ran, remember, thanks to Xbox One. This is them getting back in a very competitive position against those companies, right?
Yeah.
And Apple. Let's not forget. I mean, casual gaming is huge,
right?
Too. Do you? So are you in Roma? What area are you?
Yeah. So let me explain. I assume you can hear what's happening around me, right? So just to quickly explain the world here.
Mucho perro.
Well, there's dogs. Yeah. Actually, the dogs have not been much of an issue. Although apparently there are something like 11 million dogs in the city, which is one for every two people.
Yeah, it was like that in Oaxaca. Now, do you have the guy who comes around every morning in a gas truck that plays mooing sounds?
Well, they're different everywhere, but in Mexico City, there's at least 5 regular sounds you'll hear.
Yeah.
They ring the bell when the trash is coming.
Yeah.
There's a tamale guy that comes multiple times a day.
Love him. Yeah.
Come out of a bar at 2:00 in the morning, you want to run into that guy.
The tamale guy.
The girl you were hearing is a famous recording. That's, I believe, a junk truck. There's knife sharpeners. There are
we had a gas
junk collectors
that would go play in unintelligible, and then it would play moo. That was its sound.
This is
Was that the ice cream truck?
That was the gas guy.
Yeah, this is quintessential. Yeah, the gas trucks everywhere too. So this is quintessential Mexico. So everybody knows these sounds by heart. They grew up with them.
It's just
they
part of life.
Hear the sounds. They come downstairs to get rid of that thing or get that thing fixed or whatever it is. When they hear those sounds,
It's like Bring Out Your Dead.
it is exactly like Bring Out Your Dead. Speaking of Bring Out
We
Your
need
Dead, I'm sorry.
sounds. We need sounds in New York. Why don't we have
not to get-
sounds?
Totally should have it. I think they used to in New York. They used
Guys,
to.
I got to tell you, I saw the weirdest thing I've ever. My wife and I have no explanation for this. We took an Uber from someplace to someplace. It doesn't matter. This is right over by the Center Historico area of the city, which is by the Hilton. We usually stay. It is literally one city block away. But we turned down the street. All of a sudden, there's all these police everywhere. There are effigies hanging from the trees. And in the middle of the road is a woman in an open coffin.
What?
And it happens.
A live woman or a dead woman?
No, a dead woman. And we drove by it and we kind of, you as you would. No, I have no idea what that was. I don't know. But we drove by that yesterday. So it was
It's a really fascinating culture. And I think it's a very warm, positive culture.
Oh my God, yeah.
Mike Elgin was telling me that Oaxaca's COVID rate during Omicron has been very, very low because everybody kind of is careful and they take.
By the way, in
out
this
for each
city,
other.
the usage of masks is somewhere north of 95%. The only people in this neighborhood that we don't see wearing masks are Americans.
It was the same in Oaxaca.
It's disgraceful.
Exactly.
It is disgraceful.
It was just, it's a little
All
disrespectful.
the blonde girls walking down the street saying like.
We saw the
not
same
wearing
thing.
masks. Yeah, it's
Same
unbelievable.
thing. But I love the culture. I'm so jealous.
Oh, it's amazing.
And the food, man, your Instagram is loaded as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
The food is not horrible.
Anyway, back to back
Yes.
to
Sorry.
back to
I
FML.
just- that happened. That happened.
Mary Jo's lead.
Yes.
You know,
Okay,
I think
let's talk
this
about
is very
something, though.
future. I think this is very future looking.
Yeah.
I
So
think this
let's
is
talk about the
smart.
metaverse part, right? Like where they
Right.
justified this acquisition by claiming it was about the metaverse, right? And okay, whatever you think about the metaverse, like if you think it's just complete crap or there's some pieces of it that are something, right? Like the very first thing Satya Nadella said about this is we think there won't be a single centralized metaverse, that there will be multiple metaverses, and this is why we want this company, because we think gaming is one of them, right?
So yes, but think about. Well, you mentioned the word community is maybe the way to kind of ease into
That's
metaverse.
the way to
'Cause
think
I think,
of it. It is.
I think people who hear metaverse, there are two reactions that, oh my God, I can't wait. And the majority who are like, oh my God, give me a break. You're kidding. This is never going to happen,
Right.
In the gaming world today, we've only hit at the tip of the iceberg of all of the communities that are out in the world. There are PC-based communities. There are just single game-based communities. There are mobile communities. And there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them in every facet of this. So the notion that there's not going to be one metaverse is like saying there's not going to be one mobile platform. There's not going to be one social media network. There's not going to be one messaging application or whatever. Of course there aren't.
Right.
And today, I would say gaming is maybe the most diverse and thus the messiest of those kinds of things. There are more gaming communities than there are, I think, any other kind of communities, perhaps.
Right.
I'm going to have to listen to Sway, which is New York Times podcast with Kara Swisher. Apparently, she interviewed Phil Spencer on the 10th, and he actually talked about Activision.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to listen.
Because of this, he's been very vocal about their issues and had nothing substantive to offer with regards to doing something about it, which is what makes him and his company buying Activision so amusing in some ways, because he's been kind of quiet.
Well,
about it.
this is an opportunity for Microsoft to really step up and say, look, we're going to, and you know what, get rid of Kotick first thing, right?
Right. And they talked about that.
Yeah.
They talked
He's
about how if we get them, this is all about accessibility and equality, and they keep
have to
using
say
all
that.
the words, right? Right.
Right.
But I do think it's more than just metaverse. It's esports, which I still think is going to be huge. These are online economies. Spencer talked a little bit about that.
It is.
You look at how much Fortnite makes selling virtual goods. I think in many ways this is very future forward, And it's a smart move on Microsoft's part, especially since they've seen such great success with Minecraft.
Well, you just asked about, I think it was before the show started, but you asked if the NFL was popular in Mexico. Esports is arguably more popular than the NFL right now, and will only get bigger, right?
Right.
And that's an area, again, it's like the Metaverse. A lot of people will kind of shake their heads and say, "You're kidding me? People are going to watch other people play video games?" Well, yeah. I mean, people watch other people play games
Play
right
sports.
now.
They do.
I mean,
It's just a matter of making those nerds who are just basically sitting there slack-jawed twitching into something more interesting. And I think that
well, Leo,
TV knows how to do that.
If you can make poker players seem interesting, you can make these guys seem
Exactly.
interesting.
That's
and actually,
true.
I watch a lot of poker.
Online poker?
Not online, on TV. I watch,
On TV?
Yeah. The World Poker Tour is, to me, I don't know why, but I find it fascinating. I think the problem is that there's not a mass audience, especially when you're looking at League of Legends and other MOBAs, there's not a mass audience that understands what's going on. It'd be like watching a chess match.
Isn't that true of any sport? I mean, if you brought in someone
It's
into
true
a
of
room
football for me.
For you, that's why you don't
football,
watch
I'm
it.
like, I don't know.
You don't, but
all
that's
the
why you
arcane
don't watch
rules
it.
and why is there a yellow flag and why are they
But
moving the
people
ball?
who care
I
about
never
football know the rules, and it makes it much more engaging. And you just need
But I
a
think you
larger
can
mass
teach
of people.
people, right? You can teach people what is going on, and then they get into it. And
Then they'll
they're part of
really
the
get
community.
into it. I think that's what's going to take. Is there's going to be a game that's going to come along that's accessible. It's not necessarily that violent, but it's fascinating to watch, and you can see there's something exciting happening. And that's all it's going to take. And esports is going to just be huge.
Sure.
Just be
Well,
huge.
I mean, it already is.
But it's be mass
I think that
market
speaks
huge.
to the diversity of it, right? There's so many game franchises, so many contests, so many events. There are people who just, there are people who just care about Quake games, when they show up at QuakeCon every year. And then the modern games, obviously, the Call of Duty type games, the Fortnites, the Overwatches, et cetera. So,
So I think that's
by the way,
that's smart to plan for that to break through. I mean,
It
that's
is.
every company in Silicon Valley, and I guess rather than Silicon Valley North, is looking at the future and what's the next big thing.
part of, in gaming, right, we can say the next big thing is game streaming, right? And Microsoft is
already there.
A really unusual moment is kind of at the forefront of that. Part of their announcement was, hey, we have 25 million subscribers. Hint, hint, hint. This is going to explode when we start adding Activision games, which of course it will. And over time, Microsoft purchased Bethesda, which injected an incredible amount of content, including those Quake-type games. They did a deal with Electronic Arts to get EA Play into there. I've already forgotten the name of the other company that is going to bring their service into Xbox Game Pass. But Activision Blizzard is going to explode this out in it's just in every way imaginable. And we know Sony is working on something like this. They're going to improve their PlayStation Now service to be more competitive with Xbox Game Pass.
But
and what are those?
We
guys
also know Sony and Microsoft have some kind of agreement around streaming and Azure. We don't know the details still of that, but that could be interesting about the implications for gaming there, right?
Yeah, so Sony's coming service could be very well run on Azure, right?
Run
as a
on
result
Azure.
of that, which would be kind of interesting, and that's great. I mean, I don't know if they're reconsidering that now, but I do find it interesting that Sony stock kind of nosedove in the wake of this announcement. The stock in other companies like Nintendo and third-party game studios exploded because they're all potential acquisition targets now. Because obviously Sony's going to want to strike back.
Yeah, Sony dropped
Microsoft.
$2 billion?
20 billion in one day.
20 billion.
But that's just the stock market. But it
is.
But you do have to wonder how much of this stuff, which has been bread and butter for Sony, is going to go exclusive to Xbox, for instance.
Yeah.
Microsoft says they're not going to do these exclusively.
Well, so here's the thing.
Right.
I went back and looked. So when Microsoft announced Bethesda, they didn't say anything about that.
Yeah.
When Microsoft concluded Bethesda, they said, hey, yeah, actually some of this stuff is going to be exclusive. When they announced Activision Blizzard, they said, nothing, basically. I mean, they talked about, we're going to bring it to Xbox Game Pass. They kind of said that. Didn't say anything about exclusives, but it's reasonable to.
Wait, though.
Oh, okay.
I saw somewhere that either, I don't know who said it, but somebody said almost everything will be, supported on multiple platforms, that even ones that aren't our own, but not everything.
I saw
Not
that
everything.
too. And
Right.
they didn't give a time frame. It may be for this year and next year. No.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, look, let's just talk, make this conversation simple. They're not going to take Call of Duty off of the PlayStation, regardless of the fact that right now they have an agreement with Sony that will continue to whatever year it concludes. But aside from that, it's pretending that doesn't exist. You don't ignore that market. It's too big of a market. You don't do that. And of course, they offer cross-play and they have different things going on there. You don't do that kind of thing. But they could do with what they're doing with Bethesda, where key titles that are new coming in the future might be specific to something that is Xbox only, or the Xbox, not the console, but Xbox the platform. So we'll see. But it's a big diverse company with lots and lots of games.
So it's funny when you go back and you look at the transcripts. So this is also a little insider baseball, but when we got the emails about this yesterday, they said nobody from Microsoft is going to talk to any press people about this, right? They just said that's it. Don't even bother asking, right? And when you go back, though, there were some transcripts, like they did a call for Wall Street. They did a couple things. And I was looking and I'm like, all the words that come up about this deal begin with the letter C, which is very interesting. Like why Microsoft's interested. Cloud, commerce, communities, content, and creators. Like that comes up over and over. All those words, right? Every time they're talking about those words are the words that come up, right? And so this is how Microsoft's justifying how this fits in with the rest of the company. And I would add consumer. I would add the word consumer here because...
of course. Yeah, that's the big C.
Right. To me, the reason they did this is because they have a terrible presence in the consumer market. The only place they're good in the consumer market is gaming. And they know, like, if they want to capture more of the consumer market, they need a foothold, and the foothold is gaming.
We mentioned LinkedIn at the time was Microsoft's biggest acquisition. Well, still is, I guess. I remember that distinctly because I was traveling at the time, and I just couldn't understand the justification for it. And I got a phone call from Frank, who tried to make it make sense to me, which I appreciated. But this to me is more obvious. I understand.
This doesn't need a lot of explanation, right?
No, I mean there are people who might say, "Oh, I wish Microsoft wasn't buying them. I wish they could remain independent, or I wish maybe they could combine with EA or something, or whatever it is." And okay, that's fine. That's a conversation. But the justification for this is so obvious and so beneficial. And you can look at the stewardship that Microsoft has brought to things like Minecraft, which I think has been incredible, to GitHub, which hits at a certain part of the audience who distrust Microsoft, but they've done a great job with that. And LinkedIn to a lesser extent. I don't know that there were LinkedIn partisans or whatever who were worried about that service per se, but they've done I don't know how Microsoft justifies it internally for their own bottom line, but as far as keeping it going, integrating it into their products, keeping it an ongoing concern, no problems at all. And they've been very explicit about how they planned, what they plan to do with the company. In some ways, it's not going to be an independent entity. It's going to, whoever runs that thing will...
Probably Spencer, right? Or no?
We'll report directly to Phil Spencer. Yeah.
He can't run them all, but he's in charge of them all, so...
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. A lot of people were saying yesterday on Twitter, they were saying, oh, because he's CEO of gaming, doesn't that mean Microsoft might spin off the gaming division? No. Right. So Microsoft has named a number of people inside the company CEOs, like the head of LinkedIn is a CEO, the head of GitHub is a CEO. It's just a title. Like it doesn't mean they're...
It also signals that they want to run these somewhat independently.
It does.
Just as long as they fork over
and that it's a much more formal entity, right?
Yeah, right.
When Phil Spencer assumed control of Xbox, he became head of Xbox, which to me was always like, what is this? Choose your title day at work? I mean, like, it's just such a non-standard.
CEO makes more sense. Now you know what he is. Yeah. I think I can't see anything wrong with this. Microsoft has some money, right? I know it's expensive, but of course Activision's price has tumbled in the last couple of months,
which is what made this possible.
It's a good deal, it's bargain basement pricing.
Oh, we should just to address the number real quick. The number when they were talking to Activision was 75, and the reason it hit whatever the number is now, 67.8 or 68.7, is that Activision's cash value was lower. Right, than they were.
Their stock price was $103 in February of last year, $65 this past week. So it makes a lot of sense. I can't see anything wrong with this. This is
almost 2 Yahoos. This is crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but Microsoft has the money, and boy, it's going to be a money machine. I mean, and especially the synergies that Microsoft can bring with all the other studios, with Bethesda. Do you think they'll go after more, like EA? Is that next?
That's a rumor.
I don't know.
That's
Well, come on. That one, I think that's the point where people say no.
You're too big
agree.
now. Yeah.
You can't get a EA. EA has to either stay independent or go to Sony or merge with Tencent or something like that. Like they can't.
But smaller studios, sure, right? Like they could keep buying more studios.
They could.
They have
At
30
this point,
game
why bother?
studios or something?
Yeah, but they just got 30 more. They just, they were already, I don't remember the numbers anymore, but at some point in the past year and a half, 2 years, they surpassed the number of Sony studios that Sony owns. At some point last year, they were double or over double the number of studios.
Yeah.
I mean, with this acquisition, they're in a different league altogether. I think the onus now is on Sony to either try to duplicate what Microsoft's doing or just try something different. You're looking to these other companies.
To me, we talk all the time about self-driving cars, augmented reality, all these things, the metaverse. This is concretely, clearly a big future business. I think it makes every bit of sense for Microsoft. It's cloud-based. It's social, which they would love to have more of.
Mobile.
It's mobile. Right. It's everything that we know is going to grow.
Yep.
Boy, I can't think of anything better. The only maybe negative is games like movies are a creative enterprise that requires talent, creative talent. And this is in place, right? This is one thing they
that
know
Activision,
how to do that. Yeah.
They have the studios that are doing this.
And so does Microsoft.
Free studios.
Clearly. I mean, Minecraft is flourishing. Bethesda seems like they're doing well under Microsoft's governance. They seem to know how to do this.
The other way to think about this, too, by the way, is remember Microsoft has 3 primary business units. 2 of them are overwhelmingly cloud-based. The other one is called, stupidly, more personal computing. And it's Windows, it's Surface, it's Office. Not Office, I'm sorry, Xbox.
Yep.
The only chunk of that business that figures into the whole cloud thing that Microsoft is becoming is Xbox. And we are before this acquisition, we already would have said that. It's just that it's still small, right? This is the beginning of that cloud era, but it's the part of the business, the part of that business that can evolve into the cloud and make sense inside of Microsoft. With the addition of Activision Blizzard, that piece becomes much bigger. And I think if you kind of break Microsoft down into cloud, non-cloud, you can almost see a future where the cloud part of more personal computing is by percentage similar to the cloud part of the other 2 business units at Microsoft.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a way to get that part of the business into the mold or whatever that Microsoft is shooting for these days.
Also,
so do you think
with Satya Nadella, who somebody was just telling me, Satya Nadella's at his first press conference, which was less than 2 months into his tenure as CEO, he announced Office Touch for iPad, which, according to this article, was a shot across the bow to the Windows division. It was saying, and in a way to Office too, but it was saying, we are not the Windows company anymore.
Right.
And
well, they've been saying that.
Yeah, it's clear, but that's why this fits in so well with that strategy. If you were looking for the next platform, the next big business, this is exactly where you're headed.
No, it's gonna take a while. We don't know exactly what revenues each part of that business delivers, but I would imagine that Windows today is somewhere on the order of 2/3 of the revenues or whatever, somewhere up there. It's big. Off the top of my head, Activision Blizzard's revenues aren't going to replace that exactly, but they're actually pretty close. They're in the ballpark, and that's kind of what I mean. I don't think it's going to happen overnight, but you'll see that shift in what we'll call cloud-based revenues increase over time. Yeah. I mean, by the way, most Activision's revenues are not. I don't think we would call those cloud revenues today. They're selling.
But do you call Game Pass though? Because I consider Game Pass because it's a subscription.
Yeah, I do.
But that's why you want this. Yeah. You don't want a company that duplicates every effort of yours. You want a company that's going to merge with the things you think are important and become better because of it. Add cloud to Activision,
Well, no,
suddenly it's very
Game Pass
interesting.
explodes. Assuming this thing goes through, Game Pass
huge.
becomes the no-brainer. And by the way, it's reasonable to expect the price of Game Pass to go up. Right? Just want to prep everyone for that.
Yeah.
However, when you consider that the average cost of a new game today is $60 to $70, and it's usually what you're getting for that money is to play it on one platform. If you look at something just like Call of Duty, where there's one game every year, so you're spending $60, maybe $70 now, maybe more because they have those season passes and blah, 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 whatever, cross-platform support or next-generation support, or whatever it is. That you could spend $100 a year on this kind of thing. When you look at the cost of Xbox Game Pass, just compared to that one game in a year, and extrapolate all of the titles you could play. You could play that game plus the 500 other games that we have collectively across all of the Microsoft Game Studios. It really becomes a no-brainer. It becomes to entertainment, or at least to gaming, what Microsoft 365 is for a lot of corporate customers. It's just it's
right. You just get it because it makes sense.
You are absolutely going to get it. And like you said, they don't have a good position in consumers. With this thing, they do. Yeah. And that's like an overnight turnaround. That's amazing.
I still think they should go back to those work and play bundles they did for a while, like bundle gaming with Office 365 for consumer, and throw in something else, right? And make that like, you have some of your time's work, some's play, right? You know
what a good name for that would have been? Microsoft 365, right? It's unfortunate they went that direction for the productivity part, because now all of Microsoft could mean so much more. I mean, maybe they could still use that. I don't know.
Sure. So I have a question for you, both you guys. I feel like everybody who's looking at this deal is looking at it as, what is Sony going to do? What is Tencent going to do? What are all the gaming vendors going to do? I want to know, what's Amazon going to do and what's Google going to do? Because if you go back to the roots, this is a cloud, at the very root of it, it's a cloud play, right? Like we're talking about. And if you're those two companies, you're like, oh, so, we have strengths in the cloud that are more business oriented. What should we do with gaming? I mean, Amazon has Twitch, but are they going to do more? And Google has
Amazon
Stadia,
has Luna as well, right? People don't remember this, but
they have a studio. I mean, their new world is is doing, I think, pretty well.
I think you got to look. We've talked about kind of acquisitions and mergers, but I think partnerships is also a thing. And in the PC space, for example, you have things like Steam and the Epic Game Store. You have NVIDIA GeForce Now, which brings PC games to mobile through streaming. It's possible that, we already know Google is using their Stadia stuff as a back end for other services, which always made sense to me. Amazon could do the same. They could partner with some of those companies or others, or independent game studios, or mid-tier gaming studios, because between the Activisions and EAs of the world, and then the individuals who make games by themselves on mobile or whatever, there's thousands of things of various sizes in there. I don't know. I think a lot of people expect Google to give up on Stadia as a standalone service that they deliver directly to consumers. This may hasten that if that's happening. I don't know. But yeah, Google and Amazon are the only two other companies in position to offer this level of scale and infrastructure, right, that Microsoft has, for sure.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, the next year is going to be really. Look, they're talking about everyone's saying mid 2023, and I think the reason for that is that Microsoft says it will conclude by the end of their fiscal year, which is the end of June 2023. But that doesn't mean it couldn't happen by the end of December or so. It could happen at any time. But whatever it's not going to be next week. But whatever the amount of time it is, between now and then is going to be very interesting in the gaming space. I think we're going to see lots of pieces start moving around.
Yeah. I think they also added that in because of antitrust. Like, they're just padding it in case they have to go through antitrust stuff.
Oh, there will be scrutiny. I mean, it's just a question of whether there will be any attempt to have Microsoft make certain concessions. You could imagine, spin-off. Like, you can keep Call of Duty, but you got to spin off Candy Crush, or that kind of nonsense or whatever. But
I hope not, because I think you made that. Now that you said, they're only the third largest game company in the world, the largest in the U.S., but still the third in the world. I think that's that's good.
It is good.
It depends on it depends on why the government wants to do an antitrust push, right? I feel like on certain companies they're doing it because they feel like there's been egregious problems like Meta.
This is
right?
this is what I joked yesterday on MacBreak Weekly. While the government's baleful eye of Sauron had turned to Google and Amazon and Apple and Microsoft was just going, we're over here. We're not.
That's right.
And so this
but
is
that's
a
the
good
thing.
time.
Actually, no, that's an excellent point. Google and Apple, just to look at app stores, have done egregious harm, and it's all over the world. Everyone knows it. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's trying to stop it.
No, and there are some people. Right, there are some people who just break up big tech. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter what they're doing. Break them up.
I think it's conceivable that Lena Khan at the FTC may say we blew it with Facebook and Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp. We're not going to blow it again.
Except for one thing. Microsoft is a very different company than Facebook. It's also a very different company than Apple and Google and Amazon. And one of the reasons it has avoided that scrutiny in part is, but whether you, I realize the Slacks of the world may disagree, the Salesforce.coms of the world may disagree. I get that, of course. But even someone like Tim Sweeney, has come around on Microsoft. He's been awfully quiet, hasn't he? This guy who was so worried about Microsoft.
He's another fish to fry.
Well, no, but that's an important point because first of all, he's partnering with Microsoft, right, on HoloLens and other things. But he's bringing his game store to the Microsoft
the CEO
store.
of Epic we're talking about here.
But he's a big critic of this kind of thing. And back when Microsoft talked about bringing an app store to Windows 8, right? So it's a million years ago now. Yeah. He was a vocal critic of this because he was afraid Microsoft was going to do what they did in the past by bundling and blah, blah, blah. He was going to kill companies like him and Steam. And today he's part of the little prayer circle or whatever. He's not, he's in the circle now. So I don't know. I realize Microsoft's not perfect, and we certainly have had our complaints in the past. But I think when you compare them to those other companies,
but you're right.
You see a company who's done well by the acquisitions they've made.
I think Mary Jo's right, though. If government is just saying big tech's too big, this is going to make Microsoft I think that's
it will make them.
It's going to make them a powerhouse. This is really exciting for Microsoft. This is really good for Microsoft, I think.
It is.
Yep.
It is.
Yep.
I mean, it's definitely good for them, kind of catapulting back into the top, tier. It's funny, they're never considered part of FANG, the Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google thing, right? Like Microsoft's not part of it, even though they're the second the second biggest company, right? Yeah. And still people ignore them because they're enterprise. That's who they are.
Well, that's another point they made on MacBreak Weekly yesterday. This is also a defensive move against, of all people, Netflix. Because Netflix and that streaming model getting into gaming, I don't think they're going to be a threat to anybody for a while. But it's just, to me, this is such a brilliant move.
I think companies need to align to their strengths. You probably saw this thing about YouTube is dropping their original programming, which a lot of people probably didn't even realize they had.
Right.
But to me, Google/YouTube doing original programming was like Microsoft doing original programming, which, by the way, they did back in the early 2000s. And they quickly realized, okay, this is not our strength. Like, we need to not, this is just a dumb place to be. Google may decide, us delivering a game service to consumers is not our strength. Us having the back-end infrastructure for gaming for other services, EA, whomever, maybe that makes sense. And that's a business they can kind of be part of, and we'll see. But that's what when I think about the next year, I think we're going to see those changes occur. It's going to be a busy year. In gaming in general, I would say.
And I'm sorry to say, Mary Jo, but Paul's new gaming segment is starting to look better and better.
I'm thinking, let me just throw out an idea. Right now, it's kind of at the end. I was thinking maybe
move it up,
mush it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I could have a delayed start to join the show, just saying.
Mary Jo will join us in half an hour, but first, let's talk gaming.
Sure. Let's talk Overwatch strategies with Paul.
No, but as Azure gets more in the mix here, I will be interested because I care about anything Microsoft's doing at the cloud, even if it's gaming, right?
Well, that's the thing. This is so good for their overall business goals.
It fits in many places,
so nicely.
Right.
When you look at who they almost bought this year, right? Like last year, they almost bought at one point TikTok, but that was a weird circumstance around that, right? Then they almost bought
what was
Pinterest.
the number? Sorry to interrupt. What was the number on TikTok? Do you
I
remember?
know. What was the TikTok number? I don't remember.
It seemed
but then they
ludicrous
almost
at
bought
the time.
Pinterest. They almost bought Pinterest. Then they almost bought Discord. I'm like, of all of these things, this acquisition, the Activision Blizzard, fits in the best, actually.
And it's going to have the biggest impact, and right
Yeah.
away. You know. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning, yesterday morning rather, thinking I got a cute little story to publish about Windows 11 SE laptops
We should
and
do
stuff.
it.
And,
We should. Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, all the stories that were the top stories of the week
were the top.
until this.
Yep.
All the stories that you just put on the back burner because, you know what? This is the biggest. It's funny. I like kicking off the year with what will certainly be at the end of the year one of the biggest stories of the year. I mean,
crazy.
Right?
It's crazy.
Right? I mean, amazing. All right, I want to take a little break, and we'll come back with the other stories.
The other stuff.
The other stuff. Paul Thurrott.
The also rants.
Mary Jo Foley. Welcoming a brand new sponsor to the show. I think you know the name. Certainly if you're a coder, you know the name. HackerRank. I just love HackerRank. And actually, I'm not looking for a job as a coder, but I actually use HackerRank all the time because I love their little interview problem stuff. Between deadlines, frustrating interview tools that aren't set up for the technical interviews that you're going to be doing, conducting a tech interview might be the last thing you have time for. Of course, you have to spend the first 10 minutes of your interview just trying to set up an environment to share code from a dozen documents. That wastes you and your candidate's time. I'm talking to employers here. Fortunately, HackerRank has developed an IDE for tech interviews. Brilliant. An integrated development environment for tech interviews. This is what I love about HackerRank. With a set of easy-to-use interview tools, you'll quickly find the best developers for your technical projects. What a great idea. The developer interview tools include a pre-made question library with over 2,500 questions, so you can find the right questions for what you're looking for, the kind of coder you're looking for. I love this. There's a code playback feature. So if you're doing a code problem, you can review the candidate's coding approach. You can score their skill levels. It's like you're watching them do it in playback. There's a built-in whiteboard. We always like that, in those interviews. Okay, why are manhole covers round? Go ahead, there's the whiteboard. So you have a built-in whiteboard. You can collaborate in real time, see how the problems are solved. Because that's what I think we know that what you're looking for intelligence, native ability, logical thinking, not necessarily, oh yeah, I know C++ backward and forward. I mean, you might need that, but you're also looking for the ability to learn and solve and think. And this helps you do it. It's time to reboot your technical interview process with HackerRank. Click, interview, done. Love that. Click, interview, done. Start using HackerRank. You can do it for free right now. See how much better a technical interview can be. Reboot your technical interviews with HackerRank's easy-to-use tools. Now, I love Hack. I just go there and do some of the problems, so I'm very familiar with it. I've been using HackerRank for years. Well, now, as an employer, this is a tool you're going to really want. Pre-made question library, code playback, built-in whiteboard. You'll be conducting better technical interviews, instantly identifying the right talent. And don't tell them I said this, but it's really fun too. You're actually going to enjoy the interview process. When's the last time you said that? Go to HackerRank, 2 R's in HackerRank, okay? HackerRank.com/WW for a better tech interview free today. I've always used HackerRank's free stuff, and I love it. HackerRank. So there's 2 R's. HackerRank.com/WW. HackerRank. Love you. Love you guys. All right, Mary Jo Foley, love you too. It's okay. Paul Thurrott, you're okay too. I don't want to leave you out. Don't feel left out.
It's okay.
Moving along to other topics at hand.
Are there other topics?
Let's go back. No.
Let's dust off the notes.
Dust off the notes. Windows. I guess there's this thing still called Windows. Actually, did you see the PC sales numbers for last year?
I know. They're
Holy
crazy.
Moly.
Just to be clear about that, I've been tracking this for years, and every year I make spreadsheet and, I compare year over year. The PC industry hit a high in 2011. It was something like 365.4 million units sold. And it's been on a downward free fall almost ever since. In 2017, 2018, it kind of plateaued around 250, 260, or actually around 260, we'll call it. And then thanks to the pandemic, we've seen some little upticks until this year. 344.3 million. This is the third highest number of PCs sold in a single year in history. And if it wasn't for the component shortage, there's a really good chance this would have been the single best year ever for PC sales. This is, I'm saying this having just come back from the funeral for the PC industry, right? I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, we didn't think it. I mean, we knew it went up because of COVID. That made sense.
Right.
But we didn't think, in fact, that's the conversation we had about Windows 11 is this is all to jumpstart what will certainly be a laggard year for PC sales.
That's right.
Guess not.
That's right. Although I will say PC sales did not go great in the fourth quarter, especially for the top two PC makers, Lenovo and HP.
Went well for Apple, though. Went well for Apple.
Yeah, although Apple year over year didn't move their needle at all on market share, interestingly.
No, but they did have, but they didn't move the needle. They had better growth than they've ever had.
That's right,
before.
they did.
Yeah.
That's true. Yep. Yeah. But and I'll just point out that shortfall happened right as Windows 11 was released. So I'm not saying it's Windows 11. In fact, I'm very specifically saying it's not Windows 11. But the question, of course, is the future, and we'll see how that goes. Industry analysts who work for companies like IDC and Gartner are still saying, hey, look, this is not, we're not going to keep going up and up and up. This is not how that works. But, you look at the graph over time and you see kind of a seesaw effect. We could be in for another good year this year. So certainly last year was astonishingly good. And again, you have to qualify it with the component shortage problem, right? And the fourth quarter probably would have been a lot better if it wasn't for for those issues. So
yeah,
fascinating. That would have been to me the biggest story this week.
Huge. Yeah,
if it wasn't
huge. Well, to what do you attribute it? I mean, what's going on? I mean,
we're all looking for that answer. I don't know. I mean, obviously the pandemic is ongoing, so thank God for that.
Yeah, but you would think that everybody in 2020 bought whatever hardware they needed for the kids to go to school. Maybe you think they've been suffering and then finally said, I guess it's going to continue? Or
anyone who has kids in school will tell you that those computers are either non-existent or terrible. So, that continues. Right. I think Microsoft has kind of shifted language. I think we all have shifted language. We were working from home for a while. Now we're talking about hybrid work. The phrase "the new normal," which everyone hates as they should, is terrible. Mm-hmm. But I think the reality is, unfortunately, of the world is this thing is ongoing. We have this new wave with Omicron. It is going to be more. We don't. The future is uncertain. Apparently, everyone didn't buy a computer who needed it, and I think because a lot of people did buy computers in 2020, and all of a sudden there were no computers to buy. We all raced to get more and more computers out into the world. And other devices, we're just talking about computers here. The component shortage happened. I mean, I think maybe this is a self-fulfilling prophecy of some kind or whatever. But the question is how it continues or whether it continues. If so, for how long, who can say? But
you
I
have
think
to
it is
think
best tool for the job.
You have to think it can't continue. I mean,
you have to think it can't. I mean, the PC is kind of an interesting device because if you asked most people what their impression was of a computer, words like unreliable and those kinds of things would come into play. The truth is computers last for many, many years.
Right.
And as people have shifted from desktop to laptop to mobile devices, especially phones, they don't get used for everything, and that helps them last longer and longer as well. And I think we don't even know what the cycle is anymore. I think that's part of the problem. So it's possible there's an entire new generation of people ready for an upgrade who realize, I can get some stuff done on my phone. Okay, I can get some stuff done on my laptop. How long has it been? 15 months? I think I need a computer.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just need to sit in front of a thing that has a big screen and a big keyboard and actually get work done. And maybe that's all it is. I can't. I have tried, and not because I want to move from the PC, but just what I do and how I am. I've tried every permutation of other things that can be things that are not what they are. iPads with keyboards and blah, blah, whatever. And at the end of the day, I need a computer.
A good laptop, right? You're not saying desktop.
I need a computer.
Good laptop.
Well, whatever. I mean, if you're a gamer, we just talked about games. For a lot of those guys, the ultimate device is a desktop computer, and it's a really big, expensive desktop computer. It depends on your needs. There are people who have multiple screens. They analyze data and they do all kinds of crazy things with that.
Maybe that's what came into play is, as you say, we realize, well, this is going to go on. For people in the information economy, people who have jobs, they had more discretionary income because they weren't spending it on eating out and traveling and all the things.
Sure.
So maybe they said, look, I got an extra couple of grand, and it really would be nice to have a gaming system or maybe a new laptop.
Even a VR system or something. Or, whatever.
Yeah, and so maybe that's what's going on is I got some discretionary income.
Yeah. I think there were... Don't you think there were also a class of especially younger people who before the pandemic just had kind of written off PCs?
My phone is all I need. Yeah.
Right. My niece, both my nieces, they didn't even have a PC and they didn't care. And then suddenly it was like, oh, wait, now we need one because we're doing all this stuff that we didn't do before.
That's right. That's right. Yep. Yeah. I mean, in many ways, for students, PCs were probably like computers were to you and I 30 years ago, where you went to a place, you sat in a room, you clicked away and did whatever you did. You saved it to a disk and you put it in your pocket and you came home with it. And I think the way the world has gone, again, the pandemic is awful, but it has accelerated certain things. And I think this is, as a PC fan, as someone who started this career I'm on now because of the PC, and I hope to ride it out on the PC, it's nice for me to see a renewed appreciation for a device that does a job well. The phone does certain things well. Tablets and e-readers and things like that do certain things well. That's fine. But PCs do certain things well. They happen to be things I care about a lot, but whatever. But I think there are things that people need. They're real productivity value to it. And I think it's great personally that people are really seeing that value now as well. And obviously companies are on their own upgrade cycles. It's possible just that a certain number were doing this in 2020 and then some in 2021 and now 2022 here. And oh, no one's back? Okay. Time to buy new computers or whatever it is, I'm sure it's a mix of all that stuff.
Yeah. And of course, M1 Macintoshes, because who wouldn't want a couple of more of those?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we can't really know because we're so unusual. I mean, we buy or get new computers, whether we buy them or loan them every few months. You've got dozens of laptops. So we have no idea what a normal person's life is like.
I'm probably more normal than the two of you, but just saying.
But even you probably get more computers than most.
No, I have two computers right now.
Well, hold on a second. So we should talk about this. So I don't know if you remember the dates, but I remember you had that Acer laptop. And did you buy that specifically in tune with some Windows?
The Asus, you mean? The Asus laptop, maybe?
I thought it was an Acer.
Yeah, I never had an Acer.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Yeah.
Sorry, Asus.
No, that was like 2017, 2016, around there, I think, right?
And okay, so that would have been Windows 10.
But then it didn't work. It stopped working, and I had to get another computer. So I got the Surface Laptop 3.
What year was that?
2 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, right?
So that's actually not that big of a time frame between those two, right? A couple of years,
and then,
2, 3 years.
The only other one I have is because you gave it to me, but normally I just buy a PC when it dies, right? I don't have a budget.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to establish how long that is. You live on a PC. I mean, that's your living, right?
All right. So I'd say about every 2 to 3 years I use.
Okay, that's pretty aggressive,
I say 3
honestly.
Usually. Right, 3 is pretty aggressive. Right, it is.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm not like you guys in that I don't change my laptops and computers.
I change my laptop just about every month.
So, I know you do.
And that doesn't mean I'm spending the money. I mean, obviously I review them as a living or for a living as well. But I don't know. I've done that for so long. I don't know how long I would hold on to things. If I had to use
my last
one
desktop,
computer full time.
No, the desktop I had that Twit bought for me. I had that for
that
like
was
8
Dell,
years.
Right? A Dell.
Right.
Dell
I had it
PC.
for a Dell Optiplex that I had for 8 years, and the only reason I got rid of it was Windows 7 went out of support, and I'm like, you know what? I really should upgrade this and get a new PC.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was still working. Like, it wasn't bad. It wasn't a problem.
I did go through. I went through a series of Intel NUCs. At least 2 of which had issues, certainly, that triggered upgrades. And, I'd like to buy things that don't work and then buy new ones. For some reason.
It's fun.
Yeah, because I hate myself. But, I don't know. I wish.
Typical
I don't
for
Yeah?
knowledge worker. And then
Okay.
for a
Yeah.
normal, people at home, 7-8 years is much more typical.
That's right. That's nothing weird about that.
No,
right?
I hear from people on the radio show all the time with 10-year-old computers. I mean, it's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
common.
Well,
And
look,
they're enthusiasts enough to listen to a technology radio show, so they're not
That's a good point.
normal,
Yeah. Right.
and they still have really old systems. So I think that's
Yeah.
pretty
What are the kids doing on AOL these days, Leo? Is that still a thing?
Oh, I get calls from people when AOL changed their, they were bought and I don't know, it was a mess. I got so many calls from people saying my AOL mail isn't working anymore. It's like,
man.
why do you still have AOL mail?
Yeah.
But
I
that's
get a lot
normal.
of Hotmail people still. I do. I get people
Yeah.
saying, like, I'm on Hotmail. Do I need to go to Outlook? And I'm like,
Well, they are on Outlook. They just
I'm like, you're basically on the back end of Outlook, even though it says Hotmail.
Yep.
So don't worry, you're fine.
Hey, my primary Microsoft account is a hotmail.com account.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
All I know
Surf-
is PCs are great.
Here's a new PC you're going to want to buy or not.
Yeah.
The Surface Laptop
You-
SE. What's SE stand for? Special edition?
No one
Super
knows.
excellent?
School edition. Yeah,
They
no
won't
one's
say
ever
what it
said.
stands for.
Microsoft won't say.
They won't
So
say-
Well, this is
Microsoft-
the low end one.
Yeah, Microsoft announced this, I don't remember, a few months back.
Yeah. Oh, so it's
and,
shipping.
November.
Ah,
It's
I
not.
get it.
It's now shipping. So $250 to start.
Wow.
This is an 11-inch.
Without the keyboard. Oh, no, it's a laptop.
Oh, no.
I wish people
No,
would not sell $250 computers. It sets an
Yeah.
expectation that's completely unreasonable.
It does.
So
And
these
people
are-
get mad at me when I say you should not
Yeah.
buy a computer for under $500. It's a
Well,
mistake.
these are for schools, right? These
I
aren't for
understand.
individuals.
You can't even buy this one
yeah.
unless,
Yeah, you
unless
can't. You
you're a
can't
school
buy this. You have to
admin.
go to a Microsoft reseller as an educational institution.
Yeah.
The thing is, as a Surface device, it's not much of a Surface device, right? It doesn't have a 3.2 display. It doesn't have a Surface Connect port, anything like that. It's all standard parts. I agree with you that it's garbage. These computers are all garbage. It's not just Microsoft, right? Other companies are announcing similar.
Yeah, and why should
devices
some
too.
kid have to suffer with this piece of crap?
I know. Well, but here's the silver lining. I will say, and this is, I think, a direction the industry is finally kind of removing into. It's highly serviceable, and you can take it up. Anyone can take it apart. It doesn't require a technician. Minimal tools. You can replace things like the keyboard, the display, the battery. Microsoft obviously on their higher end Surface devices have started doing that kind of stuff. You see SSD replacement, although that is supposedly supposed to be done by a authorized person today, by a technician, although that's changing, right? They've kind of embraced this right to repair movement. So that's a good trend, at least. Of course, the thing you want to upgrade is all of it. You want to upgrade the screen, the processor, the RAM, the storage. I mean, it's all really low end stuff. And Celeron processors, eMMC storage. It's not great.
I
When
wouldn't
was
give
the
this
last
to a
time?
5-year-old.
Here's a phrase you haven't heard in a while. TFT display.
Oh my
kidding me?
God.
What does that
this is
even
like,
mean?
It means this was new 20 years ago. Like this is.
We haven't
this
used
is
this in
not-
a long time.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
not.
Okay.
this is
So
not
here's a
modern.
question, philosophical for you both.
Yeah.
Obviously, not everybody can afford a $500 computer or $1,000 or
Right.
$2,000. Obviously, I know that. I understand that.
Oh boy.
But just because you can't afford it, should you be offered a computer that is really terrible because it's in your price range? Is that a better thing than just saying, no, if you can't afford it, you can't afford it? You
what?
shouldn't buy a $200 car.
This is actually kind of a fascinating conversation because there's a thing to be had around value versus cost, right? One of the things that's really interesting to me in Mexico City, we get on the metro, we're riding it, and I do this when I'm on buses or planes or anything, and you look and you see what other people are using. In the United States, you see a lot of high-end smartphones, Samsungs, iPhones, obviously, very common. Everyone has these things. And you can kind of justify it by saying, well, yeah, it's $1,000, but I'm going to own it now for probably 3 years. And you do the math on the monthly cost and like, it's not an investment, but it's a good value over that period of time because you do use that thing all day long every day. And okay, that's fair. But I look around the metro in Mexico City. These are much poorer people than you see typically in the United States. They all have phones.
Yeah,
None of them
are
are Samsungs.
$1,000 phones.
None of them are iPhones. No. You don't see iPhones anywhere here.
No.
They're all using what I would call mid-level or even low-end Android phones.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have cracked screens and, the big bezels at the top and bottom you don't really see anymore in the United States.
That's kind of a measure of how important it is that you at least have a cell.
Yeah. So I guess if what you're asking is it better to have a cheap thing than a nothing? Especially in the education market.
I guess you have to have a computer, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder why. We know that education computers are usually built to be rugged because they're passed between kids, and if they're in a lab, different kids come in all day long and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you would kind of hope that these things are durable enough to last for X number of years. And obviously schools are doing the math and they don't have big budgets, whatever, but they need X number of computers, and what can we do? And so a $500 computer is when you start to get into something that is usable and nice. Is it better to have twice as many lower end computers that are kind of dubious, or is it better to have half as many that are reasonable? And I don't have an answer, but
volume. No, you got to go with the volume here, right?
That is where they go. I mean, that's the answer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know what? They say these are for K through 12. They're really for K through 8?
Yes, 6
maybe,
or 7.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yep. You wouldn't find a high school student that would want to be caught dead with one of these things.
Right. Unless they had nothing. Unless they had no alternative, then they take it, right? But
yeah.
Right. And all of these devices based on Windows 11 SE that are coming out, they announced a bunch of them this week. The way they describe them can be dropped from, a height of 5 feet, or it can be thrown against the wall. They should describe them as they will be dropped from a height of, whatever, and thrown against the wall. It can endure spills into the keyboard. That's how they describe these. It's not like how fast they are, how powerful they are. It's more how rugged they are and how durable and how easy it is to wipe them and they
have to be usable. I guess if they are tolerably usable, then it's fine.
Well, by the way, so this is okay. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is the other issue that has kind of dogged the PC industry for a long, long time. If you go back to 2006, 2007 timeframe, probably Windows Vista was brand new. Microsoft finally shot for the moon because of what Apple was doing with Mac OS X. Hardware accelerated graphics, all this impressive stuff going on. No one had computers that could run any of it. People were freaking out. Like, what is this? This thing doesn't work on my computer. And then netbooks took off, running Linux. Yeah. And so Microsoft had to issue something called Windows XP Starter Edition, which is, they didn't want to do. They wanted to have Windows Vista something edition, but they couldn't get Windows Vista down into that footprint to make it work. In the years since, lots more componentization work, et cetera, et cetera. Today, with these laptops, you're seeing something called Windows 11 SE, stripped down edition. That's not the real name, but the idea here again is the same thing. We're not competing so much with netbooks anymore. We're competing with Chromebooks, right, in education, because those are the devices. Honestly, for $250, $300, you can get a decent computer. Mm-hmm. Now, no one I know, and certainly not me, has ever had any experience with Windows 11 SE, so I can't claim that it solves this problem, but that's the goal. And if Windows 11 SE on one of these, what I would term kind of garbagey type computers from a components perspective, runs acceptably well, competes effectively against a Chromebook, then maybe that is mission accomplished. But I don't, I've never seen it. I don't know.
Right. So on MSFT, that website, they have gotten their hands on a couple of the Windows 11 SE devices. They're hard to get because you need to find a way to have either an education account or some end to get it, because it's not available to normal users, non-student users and IT for schools. But they said, it's like basically it's like Windows 11 for the most part, except that you can only run certain curated apps. There's not a store that restricts you, but it's built so that you can just run a certain set of or type of apps. Okay. And it's definitely not like a high-end SKU or anything, but it's just meant to be simple, straightforward. The focus is on management, but you have to have Intune in the mix, I believe, to manage these in a school. Right. So that limits them to some degree and doesn't make them quite a Chromebook competitor. But yeah, that's totally the market they're going for is Chromebook. And as somebody's saying here on Discord, basically what you do on a Chromebook is you use the browser. And we always joke about Edge books, but that's what these are going to be used for, right? It's going to be people with Edge who need to use these kinds of apps that are plus apps that are very specific to students in schools, certain quiz apps and homework apps. Those are going to be allowed on the device. But it's not a device where you're going to try to run, or you will be able to even run things like, games that you want to download, or it doesn't run YouTube. It's blocked from running YouTube, those kinds of things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very special purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
I'm curious. I mean, I'd like for Microsoft to solve this problem. We've been talking about this notion of maybe them doing like an Edge book type of a thing to compete with Chromebook. Yeah. But if they can get real Windows down into a footprint that makes sense seriously, Celeron processors, it's 2022. We're talking about Celeron processors.
Yeah.
The industry collectively can't seem to make an inexpensive, low-cost chipset that can form the basis of a low-cost low-end PC that makes sense. Yeah. This is clearly just the reality, and it's too bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't want to be insensitive. I understand.
No,
not everybody has money.
Yeah.
When I was young, I didn't have any money either, and I didn't have a TV because I didn't have any money. I didn't have a car because I didn't have any money. Is it worse to say, look, you don't have enough money to buy a computer, or say, well, you do have enough money to buy a computer that's not going to serve its purpose and is really just a waste of your money? That seems to me worse.
Yeah. Well, by the way, I feel like that's what the education market has been. I hope that maybe with Windows 11 SE, it turns into something better.
There are cheap refrigerators. People need refrigerators. You can find cheap refrigerators. At least they refrigerate.
That's right. Well, by the way, this problem has been solved. It's been solved by Google with Chromebook. And
that's what I'm saying. There's tablets. There's Chromebooks. Yeah. There are computers in the $250 price range that are usable. I don't know if this Surface SE is.
Part of the problem, I think, is, but we're coming at it as any user would, right? If you have any experience with the PC platform or with Windows, you have certain expectations. So you see a laptop, you see it runs Windows, and you think, okay, well, this has got to be, it's Windows. When that doesn't perform the way you want it to or expect it to, it's a huge disappointment. I do think it's notable that a Chromebook can give a Windows-like experience. I know it's not exactly the same, but it looks like Windows, runs apps, whatever. A lot of stuff, obviously, you're doing it on the web. It's fine. That's fine for most. I mean, that does solve a problem, which I think is why we talk about EdgeBooks still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, Microsoft wants to leverage the whole PC ecosystem and all those rich apps.
It's just risky because remember what happened with netbooks. It hurt the industry badly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
It hurt the industry. It gave people an expectation that you could buy something that cheap that would be good.
That's right.
It wasn't good. It's like what the Commodore 64 did for the nascent home computer industry, or not that so much as a VIC-20. The VIC-20 ended up in people's
the Commodore
closets.
64 was a decent.
It was
computer.
okay. The VIC-20 though wasn't.
Was not.
And it was an attempt to get it down under $100, and it was crapola. And so all it did is turn people off.
The Commodore 64 debuted at $600.
Right.
You got to remember, and at the time that seemed like a lot of money, but that was a good
VIC-20
computer.
was the one I was thinking of. That's the one that was really, as bad as a netbook. So I don't know.
We're going to hear in the next few months, because now that these things are starting to actually ship, you're going to start hearing school admins who deploy them say, like, this is garbage, or they're going to say, you know what, it worked, it's fine.
The VIC-20 was $300 when it debuted, and that's when a buck was a buck.
And it quickly hit $100 though, and it was just, it was a 5K, I think, and
it was unusable.
Garbage.
It ended up in
Garbage,
people's
yeah.
closets, basically.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it told, and a whole generation of people's parents said, "I'm never buying you a computer.
Right.
Hey, we already bought you one. It's that VIC 20. You never use it."
You know, a lot of these have 11-inch screens. They're really
yeah.
small.
Well, if you're a small person, that may not be so bad.
It's okay, probably for younger
You're going
kids.
to see every
but-
pixel with those perfect eyes of yours. I can tell you that. It's
Yeah, like Surface Go.
1366.
What's that? What's Surface Go? 12 or 11? Like that for me is too small.
That's,
but
I
like
think
for
that is also
kids,
an 11-inch. Yeah, 11.
Younger kids, it might work. I don't know.
Or 11 point whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Surface Go at least was 3x2, right? This is
Right.
speaking of, terms we haven't heard in 20 years, 1366 by 768 resolution. Yikes. I mean,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
They're going after price, right? These things start at $200. I mean, they in some ways it makes you say, netbook, right? But if it isn't a netbook and it starts at that, that's great because that means more schools can afford to buy more. Of that.
The market for this is not individuals at schools, so we should be clear
It's
about
not.
that.
Right.
If you were a school administrator, would you look at that and say, I think we're going to get Chromebooks instead? Or would you say this is a
Right.
reasonable
Well, you'd have to
alternative?
evaluate one to see what it was like.
Yeah.
You would.
I don't work in that market. It seems to me that you move in a certain direction technology-wise and you kind of stick with it because you've got all this curriculum you based around whatever tools you were using. So if you're using web-based stuff on a Chromebook, yeah, you could transition it back to PC pretty easily. If you were relying on Word and Excel and things like that, I guess you could go Chromebook, right? Because it's basically on the web. I feel like the transition's a little harder in either direction, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know. I feel bad. Every time there's an education event, that original Surface laptop event, you go to that gallery they have with all the education computers, and it's like, ugh. It's like Surface laptop at the time was probably started at $12.99 or $11.99. It was a nice computer, and then next to it are all these little, plastic, terrible things. It's sad.
Right.
It is a vivid demonstration of the difference between the haves and the have-nots.
The chat room, Discord just sent me a link to an interview with Bobby Kotick by Dean Takahashi that just came out this morning on VentureBeat.
Okay.
In which, this is an interesting take from Kotick. He asked why is a good time to sell. This is Activision's point of view.
Yeah.
And Kotick said, if you look at increasing competition between Tencent and NetEase and Sony, and now you have Google and Amazon, and Apple, Facebook, and Microsoft and Netflix, we were looking at over the course of the next couple of years, starting to realize we needed thousands of people to be able to execute against our production plans. We needed them in disciplines like AI and machine learning, or in data analytics, or purpose-built cloud and cybersecurity, and that we just don't have, and the competition for that talent is expensive and really hard to come by. That actually, I think, is actually the plight of a lot of companies these days. That's a very interesting point of
By the
view.
way, that's a humongous company. Imagine you're an independent game developer, 2 or 3 guys in a garage or whatever. And I mean, how do you? It's bad enough, Call of Duty has the production value of a Hollywood movie. You're literally hiring professional actors to do the voiceover work. You've got people in suits running around in a soundstage, leaping through the air so you can animate them in the game. And that's before you get out into any of the stuff you just mentioned, ML and AR and all that, all that stuff. This is.
It's tough. I mean, I know it from another angle, which is we have small companies approach us from time to time, want to buy ads because our ads are really a great way to get a company off the ground. They would be, but when they hear how much it costs, they just back slowly away because I understand they can't afford it. I understand that. I would, but that's the going rate. It's hard. It's not easy to start a company these days.
Yeah.
And to get your head above the rest, and then to compete with these massive companies for talent and for in new areas like ML and AI is. I understand. That statement on his part actually makes a lot of sense. to me.
He's a good guy.
No, he's not, but I don't know if he's a good guy. But his reputation precedes him. Let's put it that way.
Probably isn't.
Yeah. I didn't realize he started Activision.
Yeah, that was so I saw that. Well, it started. Okay, so I saw.
He started. He was been a CEO at Activision since '91.
I know. I saw that and I thought that has to be a typo. That can't be true.
Yeah.
1991.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how tiny Activision had to have been?
Yeah.
Then, and then you look at their gaming empire today. Jeez, there's no. It's kind of hard to compare. I mean, I bet their trajectory up is. Well, I was going to say bigger than Microsoft. I guess it isn't bigger than Microsoft, but they're getting bought by Microsoft. But it's incredible in the game space for sure. It's incredible.
He was at UMich when he started a company with his dorm mate called Arctronics, developing software for the Apple II. He met Steve Jobs, who said, you should just be doing this full time. Drop out of college, focus on the software business. Of course, that's what Jobs did. So,
of course, he would tell him that.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, it worked out.
In '87, he tried to acquire. Speaking of Commodore, he tried to acquire Commodore. He wanted to remove the keyboard and disk drive from an Amiga and turn it into a video game system.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to do that. They bought in December 1990. He and his partner bought a 25% stake in the almost bankrupt Activision, known at the time as Mediagenic.
They were getting hit hard by a magic.
Didn't Activision, I'm trying to think, they were the ones that had Pitfall. They had all those early Atari games.
They were ex-Atari guys. It was Larry Kaplan and...
So they were...
Yep.
Activision was failing, and he was able to buy into it and turn it around.
Well, yeah, I mean, think, the video game industry and the video console industry imploded in '83.
Right.
And when it came back, it was Nintendo, and they probably didn't have a big role to play there.
Yep.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you a single late '80s Activision anything. I don't know what the heck they were doing back then.
Right. So it's actually a very interesting story. Now that there's a movie about Uber and Travis Kalanick, I think it's just a matter of time before we have the Activision movie.
Oh yeah,
that'd be fascinating.
It's got everything.
Yeah. They first. Well, I won't go on. You can read this all on Wikipedia. A little bit of litigation in his past. A little bit.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to other topics, as if there were any other topics. Let's see, what else can we talk? PC makers. Oh, you already did the Windows 11 SEs. New Windows 11 Insider preview today.
Yeah, we get about 30 seconds of content on this one.
Okay. Woohoo.
Well, this is not. This just came out, right? So it's right before the show. They're starting to do that now. So thank you, Microsoft. It's an insider preview build dev channel. So this is stuff that may or may not come down in the future. And it's just updates to voice access. And that's it.
Okay. Woo.
Lots of fixes. A ton of fixes.
Lots of fixes, yeah. And they are looking at that Alt-Tab windowed view, which looks very much like it did in Windows 7, which honestly I think is going to make some people happy.
Yep.
You guys, like me, own this fine phone from Google, a Pixel 6. And you guys have not been too happy with your Pixel 6.
Yeah.
I haven't had, I honestly think, as I talk to more people, Ant hates his, everybody, I have had no problems with it. And I think I got lucky. I think there was I really think there was hardware issues. And I just got lucky.
I got to tell you, so I've always bought iPhones for kind of testing purposes. I review them, etc. Having used the iPhone full time now for the past, whatever it's been, month or more, there are pros and cons on both sides. It's really nuanced, and it really depends on what you're doing. Certain things are better on the Pixel than they are on the iPhone. I think the Google Assistant voice typing stuff, for example,
it's amazing.
is incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible.
There are very specific app differences. The same app on both sides, which is very hard to explain. I'll just give a really super simple example. This is not Apple's fault, not Google's fault. It's just, it is in this case Google's fault, but Google Maps, right? So before I go to Mexico, I put all these pins on a map. These are places I want to go. It's a huge cluster of pins. And the goal over time is to visit not all of those places, but as many as you can. And if they're good, I'll change the style of pin to like a star because we know we like it. We might want to go back. And if it's not good, it gets off the map. And I've been using the iPhone. And so walking around in the world with the iPhone, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, we're like right in the center of everything. And I only see like 5 pins here. There should be like 25 of them, And you scroll in and they're not really there. And then I pull out the Pixel and they're all there, right? Yeah. And so that app is just different. And there are certain things about Google Maps that actually is better on the iPhone, believe it or not, than it is on the Google phone. But that's one on this trip. It's kind of bit us a number of times because I'm like, I know there's something here I wanted to do. I can't find it on the iPhone, which is bizarre.
Have you used the translator in Mexico?
Yeah.
I tried to, but I couldn't figure out how to do it.
So you're talking about which one? Because I've used both. So Apple has its own thing, which is actually okay. And then Google has a translate app. Yeah. One thing we did on the August trip was we were going down to Xochimilco, whatever that's called, to go on the boats. And the driver wanted to negotiate with us to drive us back, basically.
Right.
And we did the real-time communication thing in Google Translate, and it was actually pretty good. Like not Star Trek Klingon good, but it was, it was pretty. It was good.
Usable. It worked.
Yeah, it was usable. We've used Translate a lot on this trip, and I would say overall it's been pretty good because obviously even just something as simple as looking at a menu, there's a lot of unusual food items.
Oh, do you use the lens feature to translate?
Yeah,
menus?
we've done both. Yeah, nice. So you hold it up and it translates it in place, which is kind of cool. Some of those, I wish I could remember what it said. It was something like, oh man, I think it said, this is not exactly right, but it was like all these meat items. So it was like chorizo and then, skirt steak. And then it said dead meat. I was like,
I've had that actually.
Sour meat was one.
Don't get the dead meat.
It's better than nothing.
So anyway, the reason I ask is because it's in your notes. No, the reason I ask is because apparently both you and Mary Jo have applied, as I have. I don't think this is the update they were talking about. This is the security patch. It's only 200 megabytes. I still think
that's it. No, that's it. It is.
That's it. That's the feature drop and everything.
That's how that concludes everything.
Oh well, then I don't notice any difference at all.
I haven't talked to Mary Jo. Told me she got it yesterday. I'm very excited.
Yep.
It's only been a day.
Fingerprint problem.
It did.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Yep. Good.
So it's faster.
Well, before. On my first try, I never get the fingerprint to take ever.
Wow.
Right.
And I just did it 3 times right now, and it worked the first time every time.
Oh, nice.
So something has changed.
On my side, that has not worked. So I took one day this week, yesterday or the day before, I guess. I said I'm just going to use the Pixel today because I really want to see. Yeah. And I got to tell you, wearing a mask in Mexico makes the Face ID thing on the iPhone very difficult. Well, impossible. You have to type in a PIN. So
what? You have to buy an Apple Watch.
The solution is absolutely spending more money on Apple products. But
that's always the solution.
So I'm not going to do that.
You just have to spend more.
But I like that, with the in-display fingerprint reader, theoretically that should be better because but the problem is that hasn't improved anything for me. So the very first time I used it, it actually failed so many times it forced me to enter a PIN.
God.
And I've come so close to humming this thing at like a stone wall so many times.
I'd be frustrated too. But I've never had that problem.
It's been bad.
I don't understand.
Yeah. And you know what I've noticed? So, no, you know how Google pretended the reason they made it that way was for security because you're supposed to hold your finger longer. So now it doesn't require you to hold your finger longer. It just works.
Okay.
Yeah, so they stopped pretending that was a security thing.
Most people still will choose ease of use over security if confronted by those two options.
Also, that wasn't a security thing. They screwed up the phone and then they pretended it was for security.
Oh, so, we meant to do that. I meant to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think I noticed a huge difference in the sensitivity of the fingerprint reader so far.
Okay, that's good. So tell me if you've experienced this issue. The Pixel 6 Pro to me has terrible, I guess you call it like ambient light sensing. So you'd be sitting there using it like in a room like this where nothing's changing. It's just a consistent light. And all of a sudden it goes really dim.
Yeah.
I've seen that on Reddit and people say that reset your ambient light settings.
Okay. So supposedly
the adaptive
this
brightness
fix is supposed to fix that adaptive brightness.
okay.
But maybe now you have to. Maybe now you have to. Now that you got the fix, reset it. Start over.
Right.
Literally, first of all, the thing took an hour or more to install.
It took a while.
Forever.
It did.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The download is fine.
I think
It's the
there's
applying
something
it
wrong
part.
with your phones.
No, it took about an hour for me to get the update.
And honest to God, as soon as it finished, I grabbed it, I unplugged it. I'm like, okay, let me see what I can notice. And I'm scrolling through something, and the thing just like went dim on me. I was like, come on. Like, this is one of the problems I was having.
Wow.
I don't know. So it hasn't fixed anything for me that I can tell.
But you know what? The camera,
Camera's fantastic.
Give it up because the camera is so great.
I will say that's the other thing. So comparing.
Your pictures are fantastic.
Most of those are the iPhone. But
really?
Most of them are. But honestly, it is very clear that the Pixel takes better photos. And I can cite some specific examples. Like if the sun is anywhere near in front of you, you're going to get lens flares all over the place on the iPhone. And the Pixel is just, and the Pixel also does this beautiful thing where you've got like blue sky. Well, no, you've got sky. It's actually whited out. And on the Pixel, you can kind of tap right on that white part of the sky, and it just boop. It's beautiful and blue and everything. And you do that in the iPhone, and you get a white blob. It's just,
So here's how this is completely counterintuitive, but this is from Reddit, how you reset adaptive brightness. You ready? You got your Pixel 6 there?
Actually, I don't have it next to me, unfortunately.
Go to settings. You're going to see why you won't know how to do this. And it doesn't show up in the search either. Go to settings, apps.
Yeah.
Apps. Apps. See all apps. Mm-hmm. Then go to device health surfaces.
Oh, for the love of
Mike. Device health services. You can't just go to that in the apps menu because it doesn't show up as an app, but you have to do it from apps. Then to storage and cache.
No. Now I know you're just messing with me.
Look. And then I should have shown this step by step because you probably don't believe me.
I'll never remember. I got to where are we in the show? I got to come back to this.
So I'll go back to the start. Okay. So it's so weird. So you go to apps last place you'd go, see all of them, go to device health, which is, again, not an app that'll show up anywhere except in here.
But Android has this kind of thing.
It's so weird. Storage and cache. Whoops. Yep. Did I do that right?
By the way, the reason I do this is so you can update this thing to the store.
Oh, that's right. You're right. That's exactly why they do that. Yep. Go to storage and cache, manage space, like this has anything to do with that. Yeah. And there it is.
By the way, love that it has a trash can icon. Smart.
Yeah. Manage space. And for some reason, under all of that, you'll find reset adaptive brightness to the factory default.
Zero cents. That is crazy.
You can also clear all data for device health, including battery statistics. And I would do that when you get the update, just clear it all.
Yeah.
Because then, you're going to get a fresh start.
Start again.
Yeah, because it doesn't.
I've often considered just clean it, like wiping it out, doing a factory reset.
This might be kind of like that,
Yeah. Just to see if that does anything, because nothing has fixed anything.
Can you see this? This is the picture of what you were just describing, right?
It was
a gray day.
Oh, great! Yeah.
It was a gray day.
Yeah, but the Pixel excels at that, right?
Yeah. It does.
And you tap on the sky.
All my beer pictures, you should see them. They're like the best.
The night sight photos.
Food pictures.
No, they are.
She's
right.
It's made for food.
No, night sight. Yeah, food photos. By the way, that's you're right. So the day that I took the Pixel out and the food photos I took, it does that bokeh effect automatically in the back. It's beautiful.
Yep. I know.
I wish there's no one phone that does. I wish I wish I could have a smaller Pixel that had that camera.
Yeah.
And it had the reliability of the iPhone. There is no one phone that does everything.
No.
But
I'm just happy. I'm happy I got the update finally, and I'm happy that it seems to have done something about the fingerprint reader.
And it actually took you a few days to get it, right?
It did. I didn't get it right away.
The other advice, again, from Reddit.
Yep.
I think Reddit's like, the old thing where if you had a million monkeys type for a million years, they do Shakespeare. I think that's basically where Reddit is. Right. So one of the monkeys on Reddit said you should re-register your fingers, start over again.
Oh, no,
I tried that.
Didn't know.
I tried that.
No, after the
times.
update.
After the update.
Yes.
Oh.
It's
Well,
the same thing as
actually-
doing what we just did, which is basically
Okay.
you kind of want to start over because the update.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True.
So if you factory reset it with the update applied,
Yeah.
you'll get it
It
still
stays
there,
there,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just do that.
Might be if you were testing, if you're somebody like Marquez Brownlee and you were testing it,
Well,
Great.
that's what I would do. That's not what he did, but that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Well, most of the time when I bring a new Android or any whatever phone up, I clean install it. I just manually go through. I don't bring up a backup. I assume I should. I don't know. I actually don't know. So if you wipe out a Pixel, factory reset it, and then you get that choice. Do you want to restore the backup? Would that bring back the garbage, or is it just the settings and apps? I actually don't know. I don't know. I don't usually do it.
The other thing with adaptive brightness is you can give it feedback. You can adjust it, and it.
Oh, I swear at it all the time. Does it get that
Not
feedback?
that kind of feedback. If it's
'Cause I
too
feel
dark,
like it's listening.
or if it's too bright, turn it up. You have that slider.
Yeah. Oh, no, I do
and
that
it
all the
will
time.
It just
remember
does
what
it
you
by
did.
itself.
No,
It
but
just
it will.
feels like it.
You're training it.
It random. Like
Yeah, this should fix
same
that.
room. Same
Well,
room,
you have-
and you could have this different
Leo,
experience.
You have children. You've told them the same thing over and over again. Do they learn anything? Like, that doesn't happen. Doesn't happen.
I finally got, because the other complaint, I think a lot of people have that, is the curved screen. I finally got a case that just is like a,
That's the other God, it's display. Why?
yeah.
I want a flat
well,
display so bad.
I know.
So bad.
Samsung did this a few years ago, and I guess
Yeah.
Google
Yep.
finally
And then they
noticed.
figured out this isn't actually
This isn't what
premium.
people
It's
want.
dumb, and it hurts the user interface.
Yeah. Remember Samsung used to store stuff in this little
Yeah. They
little
had little
thing
side
curved
interfaces,
down
yeah.
here. Little stuff over there.
You could have a little app shelf there. You could have all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, actually, I do. That's where I put my
Oh, there you
Audible
go.
books.
Wait, what is this?
Oh, this is Active Launcher. I really like Active Launcher.
Oh. Okay, I was going to say this is not.
It's not standard. No, I don't use standard launcher.
Yeah.
But Active Launcher is great. And this way, I only have one main screen, and then I have little.
Right.
All of these icons are actually not really icons; they're folders. So, like all my messaging apps.
Oh, yeah.
If I want Android messages, just tap it. But if I want to see more, I can slide it down. All my games. Yeah,
Fun.
I like Active Launcher. Might be my recommendation. But and it's doing the the Material U.
Well, the other thing is the Google, whatever the Google launcher is called, the Pixel launcher, has this at a glance widget at the top you can't remove, takes up lots of space.
That's the total reason
There's
why
a
I use Active Launcher.
Search bar at the bottom you can't remove.
Yeah,
They've effectively
it wastes
trimmed like
all
that
that space. Yep.
Yeah, it's just. It's
So notice I don't
crazy
have
how
any of that. I also have a sliding dock, so I can have a few
Yeah,
extra.
I like that.
Dock
That's
items.
actually pretty cool.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's good.
Active Launcher, highly recommended. I don't know how this turned into the Android show. but
Well, as Windows
you know what?
users,
You got it. Yeah,
use
We
Windows
have a
devices.
choice.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Android is what you should be using if you're a Windows user. I'm just going to say. Guys, just being real. Keeping it real right here.
Honestly, if I put all the Apple stuff away, the Apple Watch, the Apple phone, the Macs, then using the Pixel would make sense. Windows or Linux and Pixel and all. And I have a Samsung Watch. I got the whole set. But you don't want to mix and match.
Not really.
No.
So I've always used an iPad as a tablet. I use it to read primarily, and then when I travel, sometimes I watch videos on it. Since I've had the iPhone, you get into that weird situation where somebody texts you or calls you, and all of a sudden your iPad is over there in the kitchen and it's making sounds, and I'm like, what the hell is that thing doing? And it's, it's like, because you can interchange everything. And honestly, that stuff's great. And that's why Google hoping to do that stuff with Windows, or Microsoft trying to do it with your phone, or whatever the thing is well-intentioned. Like that kind of behavior is very welcome. It was unexpected in my case, but I can understand why people like that. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give in to my overlords at
the Matrix.
I don't want to give in, but they're right. It all just works better. Like the face recognition. If you have the Apple Watch, you don't have to worry about it because the Apple Watch unlocks the phone.
They have a button they could put on the phone that would make that work too, Leo. And that makes me so mad. I have one on my iPad. It works great. Put the button on the phone.
Yes.
They want to sell you the watch.
I know. Well, they really do.
They do. Yep.
Yep.
Have you seen the ads? Did you watch the football game? The ads were, I'm dying. The water's coming up. Just hang on, we'll be there. I can't reach my phone, but I'm talking to you on my Apple Watch. And help me.
Asterisk, not a medical device.
Help me. You know what? We were sitting there watching the 49ers win against the Cowgirls. And that ad came on. I know, I love doing it.
Oh, man.
That ad came on, and Lisa's ex is with us because he's a 49ers fan. We're all watching. Mm-hmm. And he buys an Apple Watch immediately. Immediately.
Well, okay, so, this is only semi-related, but since we're talking about this, I've been very upset by how every time an Apple Watch saves someone's life, it generates a news story. What you don't get is the other 100 stories about the person whose life it didn't save, because it's
not if you didn't have a watch, it wouldn't save your life either. So come on.
No. I mean, if you have an Apple Watch, okay, fair enough. Okay.
What are you expecting the Apple Watch to save every life?
No, he wants a Surface Duo to save someone's life.
No.
That's
Okay, listen. Okay, hold on. That's not the story I wanted to tell. What I do appreciate is now we've moved forward in time. Apple has released something called an AirTag, and my God, are there a lot of stories. Every single time some horrible human being uses an Apple AirTag to stalk some woman, put it in her trunk or something of her car, or put it in her handbag or whatever they're doing, that thing makes a story now. And I'm thinking, you know what? Good. Because now the world has, the circle is complete. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, good. I guess the point of this is, I guess if Apple makes it, it's just news, regardless if it's good or bad. So, fine. At least that's being reported on.
Bias I am detecting here.
It's not bias, it's perspective. And
all right, moving along. Yep. Let's see. We did the Pixel 6 Pro update. How about more boring Xbox news?
I like that you admitted this and put that in the notes. But.
Boring compared to the other awesome thing. This other stuff is not super important. But I think we talked about last week that there was a report that Sony is still manufacturing the PS4 console to make up for the PS5s they can't make. I believe that story has now been debunked. I got to go look into that. But apparently that may not be true. But whatever. Microsoft, for some reason, no, not for some reason, because that story existed, somebody, maybe at The Verge or one of those sites, went to Microsoft and said, hey, we just saw this thing about the PS4. You guys still making Xbox Ones as well? And Microsoft announced that they weren't making Xbox Ones like 2 years ago or whatever it was, or last year or whenever. And they basically had to come out and say, yeah, we're still not making Xbox Ones. What are you talking about? So if you were curious if Microsoft was following in Sony's footsteps or was in fact just doing this on the side, the answer is no, they are not. And I guess the confusion here was that when they announced that they were no longer manufacturing these things, or at least admitted it, they had said, I think up front, that they were not making Xbox One X and Xbox One S All Digital Edition, but now they have confirmed that at that time they also stopped making Xbox One S, the normal S. So,
any thoughts about whether I can buy a Series X anywhere?
How do you feel about an Xbox Series S?
Yeah, we talked about that last week. I really
those are doable. I know.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
Sorry. I guess you just have to kind of keep hitting the sites and hope that you'll.
Yeah, and they are introduced into the retail channel, and then just as regularly they disappear.
Yeah, immediately. I mean, it's like you had to be there at that moment.
It's like every day is Black Friday, for these things. Like you just have to get lucky.
Yeah.
It's very,
just get lucky. All I need to do is get lucky, man. If I could only get lucky.
It's been almost 15 months, right?
Is there anything else to talk about before we?
Just real quick. This is not worth much of a mention, but every month Microsoft usually has 2 drops on Xbox Game Pass, and if I could just get this thing to come up. It is now the second half of the month, so Microsoft has announced the rest of the titles they're released in January. The notable ones here are both Rainbow Six related. Rainbow Six Extraction, if I'm not mistaken, is the new game. Maybe I am mistaken. I don't play Rainbow Six, so maybe I'm going to get these wrong. But Rainbow Six Extraction and Rainbow Six Siege Deluxe Edition. The first one is available on cloud, meaning Xbox Cloud Gaming, the streaming service. Console and PC, and Rainbow Six Siege Deluxe Edition is PC only. Apparently has 70 million players, that game. So those are coming this month. I actually would say they're coming tomorrow on the 20th. So there you go.
Okay. Shall we do a commercial break and then do the back of the book, as it were? Okay.
Have we exhausted the Activision story?
I think we have. I'm exhausted.
We're exhausted. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Fine.
Yeah. I think we've got every angle, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more in the weeks to come.
You say excitedly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to buy an Xbox Series X. Could you just...
I'll just drink my Mexican melon water.
Oh.
Have you had aguas frescas?
Agua frescas are my favorite.
Oh,
and I've been
so
making, after we got back from Oaxaca, Jamaica.
Yeah.
Agua fresca Jamaica, which is basically hibiscus juice.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Like most fruit juices are terrible for you. And this is probably not that good for you, I guess, but it's so much better than fruit juice. Like it's
so good. And my favorite is probably watermelon. It's so sweet.
Yeah, that's my wife's
so
favorite too. Yeah.
so delicious. So wonderful. And I bet you, Stephanie, can come up with some wonderful cocktails
Yes.
based on those. All right, we're going to take a little break. Come back. Bottom of the book, back of the book, coming up in just a little bit. Want to welcome another new sponsor. I'm really thrilled, and in fact, a name that lives in the memory of PC users everywhere. CDW. Remember them? They never left. They're still around. This episode of Windows Weekly brought to you by Intel Systems, orchestrated by the experts at CDW. CDW has always been one of the best places to get computers, and it is for enterprise, absolutely. With today's flexible working environments, businesses of all sizes need technology that can adapt, right? Keep up with changing business needs. Organizations need to accomplish more, faster, and easier. And IT teams, and I know a lot of you are on those, need to ensure everybody's staying secure, connected, and protected. CDW understands that to maintain resiliency in today's environment, your business needs to run on processors that are built for today and tomorrow. The Built for Business 11th Gen Intel Core vPro processors provide you with the performance, security, and remote manageability needed to continually move forward and stay productive, even while on the go. That's what vPro is all about. CDW works with Intel to provide the right technology to fuel productivity and innovation. Performance, let's talk about it. A new processor technology delivers increased overall application performance, meaning less time waiting and more productivity from anywhere. Compatible with Wi-Fi 6, you love that, to prevent delays. Built-in AI that accelerates apps and optimizes speed. Of course, when it comes to security, that's job one for most of us, right? Intel's Hardware Shield builds in protection, detecting and preventing malware and network threats without sacrificing performance. And with vPro, you get remote manageability, cloud-based or hardware-based management for IT leaders, consistent features across notebooks, desktops, and workstations, all within a business. So, for increased performance and security, trust Intel and IT orchestration by CDW. People who get it. Learn more at cdw.com/Intel Client. That's cdw.com/Intel Client. INTELCLIENT. Welcome, CDW. Good to have you. Now, back the book. Paul Thurrott will kick things off by telling me how to buy an Xbox Series X. No.
You are psychic because I am going to tell you how to buy an Xbox Series X. Yes.
Later?
Raphael tells me.
Someday?
If you go to go right now.
Yeah.
Go to bestbuy.com.
I'm on Best Buy, yes.
Apparently, if you commit to that 2-year Xbox Game Pass subscription thing.
But they want to I have to get credit checked by
Leo. Let me ask you a question. Do you want an Xbox Series X, or do you want to talk about getting an Xbox?
They wanted my social security number. That's what I was just doing.
They
want my social. Why would they want?
There's strange times.
Citizens One, 24 monthly payments. All right, I'm giving it to them. I don't care. Go ahead, take it. What's my gross annual income? They want my gross annual income.
Do you want one or do you not want one?
Okay. Okay, lines of credit, account summary, APR 0%. I guess they're treating this like a
new car purchase.
Yeah. Because this is
an
the
investment.
Game Pass thing.
Yeah.
Now, if I already have Game Pass, what will happen?
I don't know,
Then
but based on how
double
other
paying?
Microsoft subscriptions, no, it should extend.
It should say, oh yeah,
based on how
you
Microsoft
have that,
has done
right?
things in the past.
Yeah. Okay. Certify and submit application to Citizens One. Citizens One is unable to pre-qualify your application.
Yikes.
You know why? I think the credit freeze I think I have is on. And they went and they said, no, you can't find out anything about Leo.
Okay.
And so Danielle says, why would you pay monthly? And because it's a better deal. You actually get a better price than the Xbox, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're paying monthly for the service anyway. I think this is their way to make sure you're on there for 2 years. They got to make sure they fill in that time before Activision comes on board.
Who would have thought putting a credit freeze would be the one thing in between me and an Xbox Series X?
I bet what you'll find if you do get it is you'll be locked into that price, even though the price of Xbox Game Pass has gone up because of Activision.
Oh.
Right? You might even save more money by the time the subscription comes to a close.
So I really should do this. I'll be with you in about an hour. I have to go around to
if you would read the disclaimer at the bottom of my screen, I am not a financial advisor.
I now have to go around to all the credit bureaus and say, can you lift that freeze?
I would like to buy an Xbox, please.
I want to buy an Xbox. Who would have thought? I'd have to apply. Jeez Louise. All right. It's your tip of the week, the real deal tip of the week.
It's a little self-serving, and I'm going to blame Richard Campbell for this, of course, because about 2 years ago, I was working on my Programming Windows series, which kind of cataloged the history of Windows from the perspective of the way programmers could write Windows applications and so forth. I kind of went, I'm sorry, I should say. And then the reason it ended was twofold. I hit the .NET era. I was right at the cusp of the .NET era, so like the year 2000. This was the time period where I kind of walked away from programming. I covered it from a news perspective, but I didn't really do much in the .NET space. And then, of course, our good friend Richard Campbell is working on a book about the history of .NET. And so I thought, well, I'm not going to preempt that. He knows way more about this than I do. I'm going to wait on him. And the other thing I wanted to do was start working on some programming projects to better understand the .NET technology. So I started a series of those Notepad applications that became called NETpad. And I did 2 versions using Windows Forms, 1 version with Windows Presentation Foundation, and then 1 version with the Universal Windows Platform, UWP. And Richard Campbell had still not published his history of .NET, and to this day has still not. So I don't know what's going on to that. I got to ask him about that. But over the holiday break, I decided I was going to resuscitate these 2 series. So I have picked up on the Programming Windows series in the .NET era, and I've already written 9 articles, 9 new articles, and there were many, many more to come. I was working on a really fun one actually right before we started. So those are available on Thurrott.com. Likewise, I also had promised to make my .NETpad applications available via GitHub at some point so everyone could take advantage of that. I did that a year and a half ago, but I never made them available publicly. So
thank you.
I was hoping to have this done before the show started. I just fell short of this, but I have been working with the C# Windows Forms version of .NETpad over the past several weeks, actually. It's right there. It's right there. So I would say within a week, if not this week, we're going to do a little side trip, so I'm not sure if I'll have enough time, but certainly sometime very soon, that will be up on GitHub. But I will also have articles. I've written 1, but I've got another one coming out today, tomorrow, that is describing the work that I needed to do to get these things modernized, because 2 years have gone by and Windows Form is a 20-year-old mess. And then I'm going to document modernizing the app further, as you can in Windows Forms. I mean, honestly, you hit kind of a dead end because you can't do the WinUI 3 stuff, and there's a lot of technical challenges there, but we'll get to that. So that is also available on Thurrott.com. So unfortunately, my app pick of the week is not available yet. But like I said, within days, and this is the earliest one. It's the old one, the oldest one, but it looks a lot like traditional, NOPAD. The Windows Form version of .NETpad will be available publicly very soon.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's I put a lot of stuff on GitHub. It's easy generally, and it's fun.
Yep. Yeah. So I've been doing this for myself privately, but I've been meaning to make them available. I just wanted to get them down again, make sure they still work properly.
Right.
And they don't in different ways. So
yeah, you don't want to crap up there. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So that's been a lot, and Raphael's been helping me with that. I've reached the limit of my knowledge on some of this stuff, but it's pretty. I have to say, it's very much like Notepad. It's good. So
okay, I've got 2 credit freezes lifted.
Oh boy.
Mary Jo, if you'll speak slowly. It's time for your enterprise pick of the week.
I wonder if Security Now mentioned this one, but
they did.
On Patch Tuesday last week, Microsoft introduced a bunch of fixes that broke a bunch of stuff.
Steve's always quick to mention things like that.
We had people reporting broken VPN connections, causing some Windows Server domain controllers to restart on their own. Virtual machine problems with Hyper-V. ReFS blocking access to volume stored on removable media. Yeah, it was not a great time if you were an admin who applied those patches from last week immediately. But yesterday, Microsoft released a bunch of out-of-band patches that I think remedied the situation. And I say I think because I see some people saying it was supposed to fix it, but it didn't. So I believe at least some people think this got fixed. The versions affected included Windows 10 21H2, Windows 11, and Windows Server 2022, as well as older versions of Windows Server. So a lot of different parts of the Microsoft stack were affected by these problematic patches. I hope they get fixed, but again, I'm seeing some people saying, yeah, that didn't fix it for me. So I don't know if Microsoft's going to take another crack at it or what's going to happen. But it brings up the issue yet again of how are Patch Tuesday updates being tested and by whom before they're rolled out, and when should admins apply them? How long should you wait or not wait? So yeah, not a great start to 2022 with Patch Tuesday this time.
Sigh.
So if you were affected, I'd say go try to look for the out-of-band patches from yesterday. And if they didn't fix it, I'm sure everyone will let Microsoft know and they can issue some new patches.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Codename pick of the week.
Right. So we haven't talked about Windows 10 code names for a while. Windows 10 21H2 and Windows 11, because it's based on the same code base, was codenamed Cobalt. But the next version of Windows 10 and Windows 11 that come out, the feature updates, the code name is Nickel. And the way Microsoft gets these code names is through the periodic table of elements. That's how they're following along. I saw our friend Taro Elhonen, who listens to Windows Weekly, today say, yeah, there's starting to be more mentions of Windows 11 Nickel showing up in the code. There was Windows 10 Iron, then there was Windows 11 Cobalt, then there's Windows 11 Nickel. So yeah, we're starting to see the Nickel code name kind of percolate up, and I think you'll be hearing more about Nickel. So this is just a reminder that that's the next version of Windows is Nickel.
Nickel, not rust.
Correct.
Okay. Very important. And just remember,
that was Windows 8.
If you have a nickel allergy, to stay away.
Exactly.
Yes. And now, our concluding moment on the show, the beer pick of the week.
Yep.
A name I will never forget. Mary Jo.
So this week I actually did a cider pick because
yes, I love cider.
I had a friend visiting who didn't really like to drink beer because of gluten issues, so she was drinking cider. And there are so many different kinds of cider these days that are available in bars, craft beer bars, and other places now. It's not just the same old one or two choices.
I prefer to
There's
drink
like a whole
cider.
case.
Yeah.
There's like a case of ciders now. There's so many.
Yeah.
A lot of the really good ones come from Vermont. Not all of them, but many.
Because that's where the apples are from.
Right? I know. Yeah. New York has some good apples too, and we have some good ciders here. But the one I made my pick this week is called Shacksbury, the Vermonter cider. The Vermonter uses juniper berries.
Ooh.
And they slowly
that sounds
ferment
good.
the apples. They throw in the juniper berries so that you get almost this gin type flavor, even though there's no gin in it. Only 6%, but it gives it a little something different, not the same old just apple kind of taste. So if you like juniper berries and gin, you probably would like this cider. It has that it definitely has that permeating flavor. If you do not like gin and juniper berries, you will not like this cider. But it's very nice. It's, there are all different flavorings in ciders. There are a lot of ginger ones. There's lots of other varieties. And I think this is a very nice one for people who are like, yeah, I like cider, but I'm sick of just plain apples. This is a good choice.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know what else is a good choice? This here show is a good choice.
How do you like them apples?
We know you have many choices in your podcast preferences. We want to thank you for choosing Air Twit and Windows Weekly. Especially on this most auspicious day.
I know.
And I'm not
Day
talking
that will
about
live in Fammy. No, wait. What's the opposite of infamy?
Where is Fammy? Okay, kids. Okay. We do this show every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1900 UTC. If you want to join us live.twit.tv, chat live at irc.twit.tv, or in the Club Twit Discord. Paul Thurrott is at thurrott.com. That's his blog. His field guide to Windows 10 is available at leanpub.com. And what's your GitHub account? Is it Thurrott?
Thurrott. Yep.
Okay, so watch.
There's nothing there publicly if you look at it.
Watch, and sometime.
Yep, it's coming.
It's coming. His .NET stuff will be up there. I can't wait to see that. Mary Jo Foley's at allaboutmicrosoft.com. That's her ZDNet blog. She does not have a GitHub account.
I do not.
So stop.
Or an
looking.
Xbox Live account. What is wrong with you?
I do not.
Nor do I, because Citizen One continues to be unable to approve my application. I unfroze the big three credit unions, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. I don't know what I did wrong. Maybe they just don't like me. Maybe I don't make enough money to buy an Xbox. That's
that could
probably
be.
it.
That could be it.
Yeah.
I bet that's it.
Why don't you do like a virtual tip jar thing and maybe...
I did. It's all in Bitcoin, and it's, as we speak, losing value rapidly.
I think you should just say your name is Phil Spencer, and you'd be all set.
I thought Chris Capicella might offer to arrange
I did too.
somehow.
Yeah.
If he wasn't going to get me a Minecraft sweater, at least. But no.
Yeah.
No.
Nothing.
Nothing. Zippity-doo-dah. We will be back next week for a thrilling edition of Windows Weekly. I hope you will be too. Don't forget, Club Twit members get ad-free versions of these shows just by going to twit.tv/clubtwit. $7 a month. Cancel at any time. It's easy to cancel. But you're going to get ad-free versions of all of our shows. You're going to get access to the Discord, which is a great place to be, I think, all week long. Mary Jo's in there regularly. And also to our Twit Plus feed, which has the new Andy Anako Ask Me Anything. Aunt Pruitt, I talked to Aunt Pruitt this morning. He said, yeah, I had all these questions to ask Andy. I asked 3, and the hour was gone. So that's our Andy. But apparently really fun, really great time. Stacy's book club is coming up again. We just had one. It'll be another. She'll have to announce a new book soon, maybe today on Twig. We do the Untitled Linux show. We do all sorts of good stuff in there. Again, twit.tv/clubtwit. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.